Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I am the Maize Mad Man. Before we get started, hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell so you're aware every time I upload a video. In today's video, I'm telling you why J.J. McCarthy wins the Heisman Trophy. I give you 5 reasons why. Check them out. Let me know what you think. Leave them in the comment who you think wins the Heisman Trophy if it's not J.J. McCarthy and why. Let's talk about it. I'm upset.
No disrespect, respectfully, but disrespectfully, it's disrespect. Don't be disrespectful. Those vile, disgusting Spartans, poor little bro them. And I'ma tell them why I'm mad. That vile, disgusting cesspool in Columbus, the other state, and of course, as always,
I'm upset. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Philip Peters, aka the Maize Mad Man, and as you can tell by the background, we're getting right to it. Top 5 reasons J.J. McCarthy, Michigan starting quarterback, wins the Heisman Trophy this season. Number 1, as you can see here, is his abnormally hot start. J.J. is off to a phenomenal start to the season. It can't be argued. Anybody who says differently is just a hater. Let's look at these stats. He's completing 87% of his passes to this time, 558 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's unheard of, and he's not really playing fourth quarters. They've pulled him out in the third quarter of the first 2 games. Granted, it was inferior competition. We expect the lead to be massive. It was. They were able to get the starting quarterback out of those games before any real damage is done. But speaking of his hot start, it's not. Let's dive a little deeper and into the rankings of these numbers that you see on your screen now. Right now, JJ is first in completion percentage amongst quarterbacks who qualify, right? There's the guy from Tulane who's thrown 15 passes. He's completed 14 of those 15. He obviously would be first, but JJ has qualified. He's thrown over 35 passes. He qualifies, and in that qualification, he is completing a greater percentage of his passes than anybody in America. His QB rating is 4th in all of America. That includes the guy from Tulane, by the way, who's included in that QB ranking. And he's ranked 22nd right now in touchdown passes. He's actually tied for 22nd. You can imagine there's a bunch of guys tied at 6, but the guys way out in front, like Shador, like Caleb Williams, those guys have 12, 11, 10 touchdowns. And in the case of Caleb Williams, he's played 3 games. So there's that. But JJ, even with all of that, 3 touchdowns in game 1, 2 touchdowns in game 2, it's like no balls hit the ground because every ball is a dart and right on target. Guys are able to hold on to those at a clip of 87.3%. So you get the idea. JJ is out here playing football on another level right now. His command of the offense is obvious, right? He's had another full year under Jim Harbaugh and Sharon Moore now, who is the offensive coordinator alone by himself without Matt Weiss this season. And he just got back last week. You saw what JJ was able to do this past week against UNLV. So all these things coupled together have created this red hot start to the season for JJ. Like I said, over 550 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, over 85% completion percentage. Now, I know there are those that think, hey, he did this a year ago, right? He got off to a hot start. I do think it's a little different this year, and you can tell by the quietness in his feet, right? When things are happening, he's not getting antsy there. And even when he breaks contain and gets outside the pocket, he's still got his eyes down the field. He's looking to make play down the field. So that is what I'm talking about. That's exactly what you want to see from a quarterback, especially an ascending quarterback trying to take the next step. And JJ is doing exactly that. Something we'll actually get into some video here in a sec of him doing just that thing. Back to the list though. Number 2, the emergence of Roman Wilson and the Michigan pass game. We can't say enough about this. Roman Wilson put on that number 1 jersey. He feels like Clark Kent in that thing. And when he puts that on, he's Superman. And he's proven that so far. In fact, all 5 of JJ's touchdown passes have been to Roman Wilson. Some of those, most of those actually in the end zone. But we also saw last week what Roman can do after the catch, right? He caught a slant across the middle, got to the sidelines and turned on the Jets. He's obviously explosive and took that one to the house. So Roman Wilson, J.J. McCarthy, that tandem, the chemistry that they've obviously built in the offseason is apparent on the football field. And not just Roman, because Cornelius Johnson is also out there. He's moving the chains. He's more like your every down back, if you will, at the wide receiver position. He's a possession guy, while Roman Wilson is the more explosive guy that can take the top off. So Roman Wilson, the pass game, and JJ's maturity, number 2 on the list for why JJ wins the Heisman Trophy. Number 3, this one's obvious: TV exposure and opportunity for big games. Last year, I believe only the other state, and that's what we refer to them around these parts as, only the Buckeyes had more eyes on their games, right? And they played in some big games. You know, they had the game against Notre Dame, which is always going to be big, and the like, right? And it wasn't like Michigan was far behind. Michigan games were second most watched games a season ago. In fact, the game against the other state was the most watched game again in the regular season. So all of these things combined with the fact that if he stays as hot as he is, then it's a no-brainer, right? The thing is, people like to see their Heisman Trophy winners. And as good as Caleb Williams was last year, a lot of people didn't get to see Caleb Williams play until they got around to that Notre Dame game, maybe, or even Utah. So because he's on the West Coast and because he plays so late at night for people where I live on the East Coast, it's harder for them to see his games. While for JJ and people like JJ that play on this side of the country, it's going to be much easier for people to see their games and to watch their games. So that's obvious. And then you got big game opportunities against Penn State and Drew Aller, who looks like the real thing himself, and against the other state and their conglomerate of quarterbacks, McCord and Brown, right? So take care of business against everyone else, then get to those games and show out, much like he did against the other state a year ago in Columbus. This time it's going to be in the big house. So I expect big things from JJ in that game, not to mention against Penn State. Now, that one is going to be a little trickier. Michigan has to travel to Happy Valley this season. It's not the easiest place to play. However, thanks to the greed of Fox in the network, Michigan doesn't have to play a night game in Happy Valley, which is excellent. We know what we saw with Shea Patterson in that night game, not even being able to get the first playoff. It's a different environment in Happy Valley at night in a whiteout. So this works out perfectly for Michigan. It's the best case scenario because if NBC would have gotten that game, it for surely would have been a night game. And that probably would have been a lot more spooky if you're a Michigan fan. Moving on to reason number 4, success and expectations. It's really just that simple. Michigan in the last 3 years, or last 2 years, I'm sorry, has made the college football playoff. They are back-to-back Big Ten champions. They have beaten their arch rival to the South 2 straight years. And if they can continue that, and JJ continue to play at the level that he's playing out, it's a no-brainer. With the success has come the expectation that Michigan is the favorite to win the Big Ten, or at least a co-favorite to win the Big Ten. And with that is an expectation that they make it to the college football playoff again and hopefully move a little further. Now, the expectations meet JJ's talent level and what he's been producing on the field. he gets the invite to New York without any question. I don't even think it's a something that people will question at all. JJ playing at this level, completing his completion percentage being what it is, his yards being what they are. If that continues throughout the season and they have the success on the field, there's no doubt in my mind JJ is in New York waiting to hear his name called for that Heisman Trophy. The last one, number 5, point number 5, and this one we're really going to dive into is double jeopardy. And in this case, it's double jeopardy for last year's Heisman Trophy winner, Caleb Williams. The fact of the matter is, nobody has doubled up and won back to back Heisman trophies since the 70s, since Archie Griffin. That's just the fact, right? We've had players that have had the opportunity to do so, right? And not in the not too recent or the not too distant past, really. And it started with this guy right here, Johnny Football. Johnny Football in his redshirt freshman season won the Heisman Trophy. I believe he was the only freshman at the time to win the Heisman Trophy. And much of that came on the heels or on the back of him beating Nick Saban and Alabama. Of course, they went on to have a magical season that year. They did not play or win the national championship, but Johnny performed great, especially against the best competition. So Johnny won the Heisman. The following year, an argument can be made Johnny had an even better season. In fact, this one might be a little inarguable. He did have a better season by all the statistical measures, right? Except maybe wins. They may have lost one more game than they did the previous season. But he did not win the Heisman Trophy that second year. And the reason he did not win is this guy right here, who in his redshirt freshman season, Jameis Winston, won the Heisman Trophy. Now, his stats compared to Johnny's that year, they were comparable. I would give the slight edge to Jameis, but it goes to show as well that the incumbent, it's much harder to win that Heisman Trophy for the second time, right? There's a mountain to climb, and you start at the bottom again with like extra weight. You start at the bottom, and there's an extra weight of the fact that you won it the previous year, i.e. Tim Tebow. Look no further than him, right? So I think that plays a part and will play a part in Caleb Williams. We're not even done talking about guys that could have had better seasons than they did the year they won the Heisman. Lamar Jackson is another guy who in every statistical measure, every way that you can count it, was better than he was the previous year. Maybe he didn't have as big a wins that he did the previous year. He did beat Florida State, I think, both of those years. He passed for more yards. He ran for more yards the second year, but he was not the Heisman winner. So you get the gist that the voters don't like to see the same guy in back-to-back seasons. Look no further than these guys that I'm showing you here. And finally, we'll end it with the most recent guy that had the opportunity to be back-to-back Heisman Trophy winner, Bryce Young. Bryce Young, there is an argument that his stats kind of took a hit because he was a little banged up that second year, but it wasn't like he didn't have Heisman-like numbers in year two. He could have very easily won the Heisman and nobody would have blinked twice, but it's that difficult to win it in back-to-back seasons. And it was highlighted in these guys that I just showed you, was highlighted in their second seasons trying to capture that crown. It's not easy. Let's get back to JJ. Let's talk a little bit more about what he's been doing on the field. These are
pattern, fires back to Wilson. He's got it for the first down.
Get the velocity on that, get it over that first guy's head. So he's layering the football. This is one thing that I've noticed. This one was a controversial call. Obviously, it looked like he stepped over the line of scrimmage, but as a Michigan fan, we accept it. This is another just dart to the outside. So JJ, in essence, has matured both, naturally in terms of, his age and getting a little older, and he's also matured on the football field. I want you to watch his feet here. I think this one might be the one where he scrambles out, but he's still, the feet are still, he's not panicking when there's motion around his feet, people falling around his feet. He just simply got out of there, made the play that needed to be made. And these are the reasons that we could see JJ win the Heisman this season. This is why I say JJ does win the Heisman Trophy this season. Let me know in the chat what you think. Who do you think is JJ's biggest competition? In fact, we'll get a poll going. Who do you think is JJ's biggest competition for the Heisman Trophy? Let me know who you think wins it in the chat. Let's talk about it. Other than Caleb Williams, there's the obvious Shador Sanders, who's having a phenomenal season for the Colorado Buffs. Nobody saw that coming, and he's really burst onto the scene. There's Drake May, who was a preseason favorite along with Caleb Williams. You also have Bo Nix in Oregon, even though the last game I didn't watch it all because, again, he plays on the West Coast, and that game was going too late. And from what I saw early on, they were struggling with, I forget the opponent now, but they ended up winning the game, which is all that really matters. But let me know who you guys think wins the Heisman Trophy, who you think is JJ's biggest competition if you pick JJ to win it. Speaking of winning the trophies, who do you guys have win the national championship this year? The poll is up. Be sure to vote on who you think wins this year's Heisman Trophy. And we can chat about it a little in the comments. All you believers, show us your slips. If I were to start a program, I would pick Caleb before JJ, but that's my opinion. I'm not mad at that. I understand it too. Caleb is dynamic. He has a strong arm. He has a big, strong arm. Personally, I think he and JJ are more similar than a lot of people think. But he's also shown improved too, right? We haven't seen JJ for a season do what we've seen Caleb Williams do, even back his first year in Oklahoma. So that's a fair opinion. I agree with that to some degree. If USC slips up, the Heisman picture changes. Caleb has to be perfect to win again. I agree. For all the reasons I pointed out, they don't want to see a guy win it back to back. It's hard to do. I won't say they don't want to see it. I'll just say it's hard to do. I don't think so. We had an okay season last year, but didn't win big games against Utah, and he still won. He was really good, and you can clearly see how he separated last year. Pound for pound, Caleb is a better overall quarterback. Not going to argue against you there, man. I think Caleb is phenomenal. I just think, and it's not necessarily, here's the thing, it's not necessarily about who's the best quarterback all the time, right? Because if it only went to who the best quarterback is, then these results would probably be different year to year. Some people thought CJ Stroud was the best quarterback last year, right? So the year before that, people thought CJ Stroud was the best quarterback. I wasn't one of those people, although CJ Stroud was just as much Michigan's quarterback as he was the other state's quarterback, but that's for another live. We'll talk about that some other time. But CJ Stroud definitely was one of the best quarterbacks. So I don't necessarily think it's because you're the best that you win it. You win it because of the season that you have. You win it because of the circumstances surrounding. It's a big gumbo of all of those things that get you the Heisman Trophy these days. And more, it's become a quarterback award. I don't know why they just don't say best quarterback award. I mean, they have the Davey O'Brien already, so I guess that's why, but it's a quarterback award at this point. I know there was some preseason talk about Marvin Harrison winning it. I'm not so sure that that's possible now. He got off to a slow start. Last week he did have a big game. And who's to say he won't have big games in every game going forward. But it's going to be very difficult for a wide receiver to win it. He plays a very dependent position. Not only is he depending on a ball coming when it's supposed to come, the quarterback needs to be good. So many things have to go right. The line has to block. Things have to go right for wide receivers to win that award, where somebody like JJ, somebody like Caleb can improvise. So I would like to see other people be in the mix, right? I thought last year Blake Corum was a great candidate for the Heisman Trophy. Obviously, it didn't work out. He ended up getting hurt against Illinois, but other than that, I think it's a quarterback award, unfortunately. Shout out to everybody voting. J.J. McCarthy is winning right now. Go Blue. Shout out to J.J. That's my quarterback in my TO voice. No tears, but that's my quarterback. J.J. McCarthy for the win so far. Keep voting, guys. It could change, right? Things can happen. This is beautiful, though. We like to see this. Just to recap really quickly, guys, I gave my top 5 reasons for J.J. McCarthy to win the Heisman Trophy. Number 1, his red hot start. Can't be argued. He's as hot as any quarterback in America, and he's more accurate than every quarterback in America. That's just a fact. Number 2, emergence of Roman Wilson and the pass game. Roman Wilson has stepped into that number 1 jersey as well as anybody has in the first 2 games. We'll see how it goes on moving forward. And they are more willing to pass the football, which is very important. Not only that, they're more willing to take advantage of the middle of the football field because people are keyed in to stop that run. If you watch these first 2 games, not only has the run struggled a bit, but JJ has taken advantage of the run struggling a bit because guys are blitzing those linebackers into the gaps, and JJ's hitting them in that soft spot in between the safety and the linebackers that are now at the line of scrimmage. So it's a beautiful thing to see. And if people keep doing it, JJ should keep taking what they give him. I know some people have complained about not seeing him go over the top, but we don't have to when you can just matriculate the ball down the field, as they say. Number 3, TV exposure and big game opportunities. I need to say nothing. Michigan has one of the greatest fan bases. Obviously, people watch Michigan games, even the haters, because they want to see us lose. So TV exposure out of here. Big game opportunities against the other state and Penn State, definitely. Obviously, Lil Bro Nim, and you know who Lil Bro Nim is. That's Michigan State. And what's going on there, you hate to see it. I'm not going to say anything about that. We don't know everything, but it's a bad situation. That would have been a big game, I guess, for them especially. It probably still is. It's probably their Super Bowl. It's their national championship to play Michigan. So that's a big game. Number 4 is success and expectation. The success of the last couple of seasons, meeting the expectation of this season and JJ's play. All those things come together. I don't see why JJ is not the Heisman Trophy winner. And then number 5, double jeopardy. It's going to be tough for Caleb Williams to repeat, even though he's having a great start to the season in his own right. It's just not easy to repeat as the Heisman Trophy winner. Let's talk about it. Let me know what you think. I wish Jabril Peppers won that year. He was a candidate. I think he deserved it. I think what hurt Jabril that year was the Ohio State game, some of those games down the stretch, because he got off to a really great start and he was playing, and the fact that they didn't play him enough, in my opinion, on offense. If that had been the case, I think Jabril's case would have been a lot stronger, his case for the Heisman Trophy, for sure. Believe the receipts. Poll, it's stretching out for JJ. 88% think JJ McCarthy wins the Heisman Trophy this year. 13% choose other. If you chose other, type in the chat, who do you think wins it other than the guys that I've displayed here? There's Bo Nix. I know there's a plethora of guys that could. Bo Nix, Sam Hartman is another guy, Notre Dame's quarterback. He's off to a great start. Jordan Travis for Florida State is having a good year so far. 2 games in, of course, but that's all we have to judge these guys off of right now. So that's what we'll use. There's some other guys out there. Obviously, Shedeur Sanders. I forgot Shedeur Sanders, who's right up there in terms of the yards and touchdowns with Caleb Williams, and he has only played 2 games. I think he threw for over 500 yards this first game, threw for nearly 400 yards in game 2. So he might be right at 900 yards on the season. It's pretty incredible what he's done to this point in the season, coming from an HBCU of all places to dominate in the way that he has so far. We'll see what happens when the competition stiffens up. I expect Oregon to give them a good run. And by good run, I mean to beat them, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, guys, that has been my time. I hope they continue to run the ball with JJ. He's got enough speed and power to get 30, 50 yards a game. I agree with that 1,000%. You're 1,000% right about that, and I agree. But until next time, guys, stay angry, my friends. Follow me everywhere at Maize Mad Man. Be sure to check out the YouTube channel. I do some good work over there. And I'll be back here on Bleacher Report. So keep your eyes peeled. Be sure to follow me here on Bleacher Report. If you don't already, hit that follow button for the Maize Mad Man. Until next time, stay angry, my friends. I'm upset.